Black woman consoles a grieving father and his twins at a cemetery. The next day, he returns with a family secret that stuns everyone. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, subscribe to the channel, and let's get started. Zora Matthews adjusted her dreadlocks, tucking a few loose strands behind her ear as she checked her reflection in the rearview mirror. The early morning sun cast a golden glow through her car windows as she pulled into the parking lot of Wildflower Child Care Center. Today marked her first day as the new assistant director, and despite having spent the last 2 years working with children at a different facility across town, nervousness fluttered in her stomach. At 23, she was younger than most in such a position, but her degree in early childhood education and natural way with children had impressed the owner, Ms. Diane, enough to take a chance on her. The promotion meant better pay, which she desperately needed to help her mother with mounting medical bills. Zora took a deep breath, grabbed her tote bag filled with first-day essentials, and stepped out of her car. The child care center was housed in a renovated Victorian home, its bright blue exterior and rainbow-painted fence standing out among the subdued office buildings surrounding it. A small garden with sunflowers and zinnias lined the walkway to the entrance. Inside, the familiar sounds of children's laughter mixed with the scent of crayons and Play-Doh greeted her. Ms. Diane, a plump woman in her 60s with silver-streaked hair pulled into a bun, waved from the front desk. "Zora, right on time. Come on in, dear. I want to introduce you to everyone before the morning rush starts." The next hour flew by in a whirlwind of introductions, meeting other teachers, touring the facility, and reviewing emergency procedures. By 8 o'clock, children began arriving, most of them regulars who knew the routine, hanging up tiny backpacks and saying goodbye to parents with varying degrees of enthusiasm. At 9, Ms. Diane approached Zora with a concerned expression. "Zora, I just got a call from a new family. They were supposed to come in for orientation last week but had to reschedule. The father is bringing in twins today. They're 4 years old and it's their first time in daycare. Their mother passed away recently." Zora's heart tightened. "That's awful. Do we know anything else about them?" Ms. Diane shook her head. "Not much. Their father, Ethan Turner, just moved to the area. He works at the hospital as a radiologist. I thought maybe you could help with their intake since you're so good with transitions." She handed Zora 2 enrollment folders. "They should be here any minute." As if on cue, the front door opened, and a tall man entered, holding the hands of 2 small children. Even from across the room, Zora could see the exhaustion etched into his face. Dark circles underlined bloodshot eyes, and his shoulders slumped slightly forward. Despite this, he was handsome, with warm brown skin, closely cropped dark hair, and the kind of bone structure that photographers dream about. The twins, a boy and a girl, were carbon copies of each other, with cinnamon brown skin, large dark eyes, and tight curls framing round faces. Both children clung to their father's hands, their eyes wide with uncertainty as they took in the colorful chaos of the daycare. Zora approached with a warm smile. "You must be Mr. Turner. I'm Zora Matthews, the new assistant director. And who do we have here?" She knelt down to the children's level. The man nodded, attempting a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Please, call me Ethan. These are my children, Olivia and Oliver." The girl, Olivia, partially hid behind her father's leg, while Oliver stared directly at Zora, seeming particularly fascinated by her hair. "Your hair looks like the ropes at the playground," he declared. Ethan winced. "Oliver, that's not—" Zora laughed. "It's okay. You're right, Oliver. My dreadlocks do look a bit like ropes, don't they? Would you like to touch one?" After a hesitant glance at his father and receiving a nod, Oliver reached out and gently touched one of her dreadlocks. "It's not rough like a rope. It's soft." "Thank you for noticing that." Zora smiled, then turned her attention to Olivia. "I like your butterfly clips. Purple is my favorite color, too." Olivia didn't respond verbally but studied Zora with curiosity rather than fear now. I'm sorry about them being a bit clingy, Ethan said quietly. This is their first time away from me since their mom. He trailed off, swallowing hard. Don't apologize, Zora said, standing up. Let me show you around, and then we can help the twins get comfortable in their classroom. As they walked through the facility, Zora explained their daily schedule while keeping an eye on how the twins reacted to different spaces. Oliver seemed interested in the toy corner, while Olivia lit up when they passed the small reading nook filled with pillows and picture books. When they reached the sunflower room for 4-year-olds, the twins' grip on their father's hands tightened. I don't want to stay, Olivia whispered, her first words since arriving. Ethan knelt down. Remember what we talked about? Daddy has to go to work at the hospital to help people feel better. You and Oliver will stay here and play with other kids, and I'll come back this afternoon. Promise? Oliver asked, bottom lip quivering. I promise, buddy. Despite his reassurances, when the moment came for Ethan to leave, both children erupted into tears. Olivia wrapped herself around his leg while Oliver began sobbing loudly. The other children in the room stared, and the lead teacher looked overwhelmed. Mr. Turner, Ethan, Zora said gently. This is normal. First separations are hard, but prolonging goodbyes often makes it worse. Why don't you give them each a quick hug, tell them when you'll be back, and then I'll stay with them until they settle. Ethan looked torn, his own eyes growing glassy. I hate seeing them like this. Since Caroline died, they've been so fragile. I understand, Zora said, but children are also incredibly resilient. We'll take good care of them. After emotional goodbyes and promises to return soon, Ethan reluctantly left. The twins' cries intensified as they watched him go, breaking Zora's heart. Hey, you two, she said softly, kneeling between them. I know everything feels scary and different right now. It's okay to be sad and to miss your daddy. He'll come back, just like he promised. Oliver hiccuped. We miss Mommy too. Daddy said she can't come back. Zora took a deep breath, unprepared for the raw grief in the child's simple statement. Your mommy loved you very much, and she'll always be in your hearts. And you know what? I'm going to stay right here with you today to make sure you're okay. Looking into their tear-stained faces, Zora knew her administrative duties would have to wait. These children needed her more. The morning progressed with painful slowness. Zora stayed with the twins, coaxing them to join circle time, though both sat in her lap rather than on the colorful carpet squares with the other children. When the class broke into activity centers, Zora guided Olivia toward the book corner and Oliver to the block station, but neither would venture more than a few steps from her. They're really attached to you, remarked Tasha, the lead teacher, during snack time. The twins sat at a small table, cautiously nibbling on apple slices and crackers, their eyes constantly tracking Zora's movements. They've been through a lot, Zora said, keeping her voice low. Do you know what happened to their mother? Tasha shook her head. Ms. Diane just said she passed recently. The father didn't provide details on the enrollment forms. Zora watched as Oliver carefully arranged his crackers in a perfect line before eating them one by one. Olivia, meanwhile, had barely touched her food, instead meticulously folding her napkin into smaller and smaller squares. Both children displayed signs of anxiety through these controlled behaviors. By lunchtime, Oliver had tentatively begun playing with another boy who shared his interest in dinosaurs, though he still glanced at Zora every few minutes for reassurance. Olivia remained more withdrawn, silently coloring at a table, declining invitations from other children to join their play. Zora's heart ached for them. She'd worked with children experiencing loss before, but something about these twins, perhaps their solemn eyes that seemed too old for their young faces, or the way they clung to each other when they thought no one was looking, touched her deeply. When nap time arrived, Zora helped them set up their cots, placing them side by side. As she tucked a blanket around Olivia, the little girl finally spoke directly to her. My tummy hurts, she whispered. Is it because you're worried about your daddy coming back? Zora asked gently. Olivia nodded, tears welling in her eyes. Mommy didn't come back. Before Zora could respond, Oliver piped up from his cot. Mommy got sick in her head. She went to sleep and didn't wake up. Zora fought to keep her expression calm despite the shock of his words. A brain condition? An aneurysm? Or something self-inflicted? She couldn't ask the children for clarification. Your daddy will come back, she assured them instead. I promise. And until then, I'll be right here. Why don't I read you a story to help you fall asleep? She selected The Invisible String from the bookshelf, a story about how love connects people even when they're apart. As she read, both children's eyelids grew heavy, and by the end, they had drifted to sleep, their small hands reaching across the space between their cots to touch. Zora gently extricated herself, leaving Tasha to monitor nap time while she finally tackled some of her administrative duties. In the office, she reviewed the twins' files, hoping for more information about their situation. Their emergency contact form listed only their father. Medical records indicated no allergies or conditions, and the section about family circumstances simply stated, "Mother deceased," with no elaboration. Ms. Diane entered the office with a cup of tea, placing it on the desk for Zora. "You've been wonderful with those twins. How are they settling in?" "As well as can be expected," Zora replied, gratefully accepting the tea. "They're traumatized, though. From something Oliver said, I gather their mother died suddenly, possibly from a brain condition." Ms. Diane sighed. Poor lambs. And that poor father. He looked like he hasn't slept in weeks. "Do you know anything more about them? Where they moved from, how long ago the mother died?" "All I know is they just moved here from Boston about 2 weeks ago. Mr. Turner got a position at Memorial Hospital. I believe the mother passed about 3 months ago." 3 months. Such a short time to process such a devastating loss, especially for 4-year-olds. And in the midst of grief, the family had been uprooted and moved to an unfamiliar city. "I'd like to continue working closely with them," Zora said. "At least for their first week or two. I think consistency will help their transition." "That's fine. But don't neglect your other responsibilities too much. We have 28 other children who need attention too." When the twins woke from their nap, Olivia was disoriented and tearful again, but Zora's presence calmed her quickly. Oliver adapted more readily to the afternoon routine, even participating in a group game of duck, duck, goose, though he refused to be the goose when tapped. As pickup time approached, both children grew increasingly anxious, repeatedly asking when their father would arrive. Zora kept them engaged with a special art project, handprint paintings that would dry overnight and be ready to take home the next day. "These are beautiful," she praised, as Oliver added blue dots around his green handprint. "It's for Daddy," he explained. "Green is his favorite color." Olivia, who had chosen purple paint, looked up. "Do you have a daddy?" The question caught Zora off guard. "I did, but he passed away when I was a teenager." "Like our mommy passed away?" Oliver asked, eyes wide. "Yes, though I was older than you are. I still miss him sometimes." "I miss Mommy all the time," Olivia whispered. "Daddy cries at night when he thinks we're sleeping." Zora's throat tightened. "It's okay for grown-ups to cry too when they're sad." Oliver nodded solemnly. "Daddy says Mommy is a star now, but I want her to be a mommy, not a star." Before Zora could formulate a response to this heartbreaking statement, the classroom door opened and Ethan Turner walked in. The twins immediately abandoned their artwork and ran to him, wrapping their arms around his legs. "Daddy! Daddy! We missed you!" Ethan crouched down, embracing them both. "I missed you too, so much. Did you have a good day?" As the twins began talking over each other, recounting various moments from their day, Zora gathered their belongings and approached the family. Up close, Ethan looked even more exhausted than he had that morning, but relief softened his features as he listened to his children. "Mr. Turner," Zora said, The twins did really well for their first day. They had some difficult moments, which is completely normal, but they participated in activities and even made some art for you. Ethan stood, keeping a hand on each child's shoulder. Thank you for taking care of them. I was worried all day. It's my job, Zora smiled, but they're special kids. We're making handprint art that will be dry by tomorrow, and we'd love to see them back then, if that works for you. A flash of uncertainty crossed his face. They were really okay? They didn't cry too much? They had some tears, especially at drop-off, but that's entirely normal. Children are incredibly resilient, and having a consistent routine will help them feel secure. Oliver tugged at his father's pant leg. Miss Zora has hair like ropes, and she read us a story about invisible strings that connect people who love each other even when they're far away. Ethan's eyes, a warm hazel color despite the dark circles beneath them, met Zora's. Thank you, he said again, with more feeling this time. We'll definitely be back tomorrow. As she watched them leave, Olivia turning to give a small wave goodbye, Zora felt an unusual connection to this broken little family. Something about their pain resonated with her own past struggles. The grief she'd experienced at 16 when her father died suddenly of a heart attack, leaving her mother to raise her alone. She hadn't planned on becoming so personally invested in a specific family at her new job, but something told her these three people needed more than just standard childcare. They needed someone who understood loss, who could help the children process their grief while giving their father space to heal himself. Zora picked up Oliver's unfinished painting, noting how carefully he had tried to stay within the lines despite his young age. These children were carrying burdens no 4-year-old should have to bear. If she could lighten that load even a little, she would consider it time well spent. The next morning arrived with a soft drizzle that painted the world in shades of gray. Zora arrived at the center early, wanting to be present when the Turner family arrived. The twins' handprint paintings had dried overnight, and she had mounted them on construction paper frames, writing each child's name and the date at the bottom. She was organizing materials for a sensory activity when she heard Ms. Diane greeting someone at the front desk. A moment later, Ethan appeared with the twins. Today, Olivia wore a yellow raincoat with rubber boots patterned with ladybugs, while Oliver had a matching blue coat and frog boots. Despite the cheerful outerwear, their expressions remained solemn. "Good morning," Zora called, approaching them with a warm smile. "I love your rain gear. Those are the coolest boots I've seen." Oliver offered a shy smile, but Olivia immediately reached for Zora's hand. "Can you stay with us again today?" Ethan looked apologetic. "They talked about you all evening. I'm sorry if they're being too clingy." "It's perfectly fine," Zora assured him. "I'll be working with their class for most of the morning." She knelt down to the twins' level. "And guess what? Your paintings are all dry and ready to show your dad." The children brightened at this news, leading their father to the art display where their creations hung alongside those of their classmates. "That's mine," Oliver pointed proudly. "The green is because it's your favorite color, Daddy." "And mine is purple because it's Mommy's favorite," Olivia added quietly. A shadow crossed Ethan's face at the mention of his late wife, but he quickly composed himself. "They're beautiful. I'll hang them in our living room as soon as we get home." The twins seemed pleased with this promise, and the anticipated meltdown at departure time was less severe than the previous day. Olivia still cried, but her tears subsided more quickly, especially when Zora suggested they make another special project for their father. Throughout the morning, Zora observed the twins more carefully. Oliver was gradually engaging with other children, particularly a boy named Marcus, who shared his fascination with dinosaurs. Olivia remained more reserved, but had formed an attachment to the classroom's reading corner, where she would sit quietly looking at picture books. During outdoor time, despite the light rain having stopped, many children splashed in puddles and chased each other across the damp playground. Oliver tentatively joined a group building a dam in the sandbox to control a small stream of water while Olivia stood at the periphery, watching. Zora approached her, kneeling down beside the little girl. "Would you like to try the swings? I could push you." Olivia shook her head. "Mommy used to push me on swings." "I see," Zora said gently. "It must be hard to do things that remind you of your mommy." Olivia nodded, her large brown eyes studying Zora's face. "Did you cry when your daddy died?" The directness of the question took Zora by surprise. "Yes, I did. I cried a lot." "Do you still cry sometimes?" "Sometimes, especially on his birthday or when I remember something special about him." Olivia considered this. "I cry at night. Oliver says big kids don't cry, but I can't help it." Zora put her arm lightly around the child's thin shoulders. "Oliver is wrong about that. Even grown-ups cry when they're sad. Crying is how our bodies let out big feelings that are too much to keep inside. Daddy says it's okay to cry, but I don't want to make him sadder. He's already really, really sad." The insight and empathy in this statement from a 4-year-old was both remarkable and heartbreaking. These children weren't just grieving their mother. They were carrying worry for their father's emotional state as well. "Your daddy loves you very much," Zora said. "And while he is sad about your mommy, seeing you and Oliver makes him happy too." Olivia seemed to think about this. "Can we make him a card? To make him happy?" "That's a wonderful idea. We can do that during art time this afternoon." By lunchtime, Zora had pieced together more details about the family through casual conversations with the twins. Their mother's name had been Caroline. She had blonde hair and liked to sing songs at bedtime. She had been a doctor too, like their father, though they didn't know what kind. They had lived in a house with stairs in Boston, and now they lived in an apartment without stairs. Olivia missed her pink bedroom, and Oliver missed their backyard that had a treehouse. Most significantly, Zora learned that their mother had fallen asleep in the bathroom and wouldn't wake up even when the loud people came. The description suggested an accidental overdose or suicide, though Zora couldn't be certain, and it wasn't her place to press the children for details about such a traumatic event. During nap time, when both twins had finally drifted off, Zora stepped into the hallway to speak with Ms. Diane. "I'm concerned about the Turner twins," she began, keeping her voice low. "From what they've told me, it sounds like they may have witnessed something traumatic related to their mother's death." Ms. Diane's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" Olivia mentioned their mother falling asleep in the bathroom and loud people coming, possibly first responders. "I think they might have found her." "Oh, dear Lord." Ms. Diane pressed a hand to her chest. "Those poor babies. Do you think Mr. Turner knows they saw something?" "I'm not sure. Children process trauma differently than adults. They might not have told him exactly what they remember. Should we say something to him?" Zora considered this carefully. "I think we should. He needs to know what they're sharing with us, and he might want to consider getting them professional help to process the trauma." The rest of the day passed without incident. As promised, Zora helped the twins make cards for their father during afternoon art time. Oliver drew what he described as "our family in Boston with Mommy still there," while Olivia created an abstract purple and blue swirl that she said was Mommy turning into a star. When Ethan arrived for pickup, the twins ran to him with less desperation than the previous day, proudly presenting their cards. His face softened as he examined each one, taking extra time with Olivia's abstract creation. "This is beautiful, sweetheart. Is this purple for Mommy?" Olivia nodded. "It's Mommy becoming a star in heaven. Miss Zora helped me write 'I love you, Daddy' on the back." Ethan looked up at Zora with gratitude shining in his tired eyes. "They really seem to be connecting with you." "They're wonderful children," Zora said sincerely. "Mr. Turner, could I speak with you privately for a moment? Ms. Diane can watch the twins." Concern immediately replaced the warmth in his expression. "Is everything okay?" "The children are doing fine," she assured him quickly. "I just wanted to share some observations that might be helpful for you." Once the twins were settled with Ms. Diane in the front office, Zora led Ethan to a small conference room used for parent meetings. "First, I want to say again that Oliver and Olivia are adjusting remarkably well considering the circumstances," she began. "They're bright, sensitive children who clearly adore you." Ethan nodded, tension visible in the set of his shoulders. But I've noticed that they've shared some concerning details about their mother's passing that suggest they may have witnessed more than you realize." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Olivia mentioned that her mother fell asleep in the bathroom and wouldn't wake up even when the loud people came. Did they actually find her?" The color drained from Ethan's face. He ran a hand over his short hair, exhaling shakily. "God, I didn't think they remembered that part. They were supposed to be napping. Caroline she struggled with depression after they were born, postpartum that never really went away. She was on medication, but sometimes she'd stop taking it without telling me." He stopped, swallowing hard before continuing. "I was at work. Our neighbor was watching the kids while Caroline rested. She'd been having a rough week. The twins must have woken up and gone looking for her. By the time the neighbor realized they weren't in their room," his voice broke. "She found them trying to wake Caroline up. She'd taken an entire bottle of sleeping pills." "I'm so sorry," Zora said softly, her heart aching for this family's pain. "The worst part is, I don't think it was intentional. The medical examiner said it could have been accidental. She'd been having trouble sleeping and might have forgotten she'd already taken some pills." He shook his head. "I should have seen the signs. I should have been there." "You can't blame yourself," Zora said. "But the twins may need professional help processing what they saw. Have you considered grief counseling for them? We were seeing a child psychologist in Boston, but with the move," he sighed, "I took the job here to get away from the memories, to give us all a fresh start. But I've been so focused on setting up our new life, finding a good daycare, starting my new position. I haven't found a new therapist yet. I can provide some recommendations if you'd like. We have several child psychologists we work with who specialize in grief and trauma." Ethan looked at her with something like relief. "That would be incredibly helpful. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. And thank you for being so good with them. They haven't connected with anyone like this since Caroline died." As they walked back to collect the twins, Zora felt the weight of this family's trust settling on her shoulders. She had expected to help the children adjust to daycare, but she hadn't anticipated becoming so invested in their healing process. By Friday, the twins had established something resembling a routine at Wildflower. Their morning tears had diminished to sniffles, and they had begun forming tentative friendships with other children. Oliver had become Marcus's shadow, following him from activity to activity, while Olivia had found a quiet ally in a shy girl named May who shared her love of books. Zora had kept her promise, providing Ethan with a list of recommended child psychologists specializing in grief counseling. She'd watched him fold the paper carefully and tuck it into his wallet, his face a mixture of gratitude and the overwhelmed expression she'd come to recognize as his default state. Today, as she helped Oliver construct a tower from magnetic tiles, she found herself wondering about their weekend plans. The twins had mentioned no relatives, no support system beyond their father. Would they spend 2 days in that new apartment, surrounded by unpacked boxes and memories? "Miss Zora, look!" Oliver held up his creation, a multicolored structure that leaned precariously to one side. "It's a lighthouse like the one we saw in Boston." "That's fantastic, Oliver. I love the colors you chose." "Mommy took us to see the lighthouse," he explained, carefully adding another tile to the top. "We had ice cream after, but Olivia dropped hers and cried." "I did not," Olivia protested from the reading corner, where she was showing May a picture book. "Daddy got me a new one." Zora smiled at their interaction, encouraged by Olivia's willingness to engage in conversation from across the room, a significant improvement from her earlier withdrawn behavior. As the morning progressed, Zora noticed the twins glancing at the clock more frequently, a behavior she'd observed increasing throughout the week. Initially, she'd thought they were anxiously awaiting their father's return, but now she suspected something else. They were developing a sense of security in the routine, understanding that certain activities happened at certain times, leading predictably to their reunion with their father. During outdoor play, Zora supervised the sandbox area where Oliver was constructing an elaborate road system with Marcus. Nearby, Olivia had finally ventured onto the swings, though she pushed herself rather than asking for help. "Miss Zora?" Oliver called. "Are you coming back on Monday?" "Yes, I'll be here," she assured him, squatting down to examine his sand highway. "Promise?" The intensity in his small face struck her. "I promise, Oliver. I'll be here Monday morning when you arrive." He nodded, satisfied, and returned to his construction project. The exchange left Zora contemplating how many promises had been broken in this child's short life. Perhaps not intentionally, but broken nonetheless. His mother had likely never promised she would die, yet from a child's perspective, her absence might feel like the ultimate broken promise. At pickup time, Ethan arrived looking marginally less exhausted than he had all week. He wore navy scrubs beneath a light jacket, and his close-cropped hair appeared freshly trimmed. "Daddy!" the twins chorused, running to him with their daily art projects clutched in their hands. "There are my favorite people," he said, kneeling to receive their hugs. "I missed you today." "I went on the swings," Olivia announced proudly. "And I built a lighthouse and roads with Marcus," Oliver added. "That sounds amazing," Ethan said, genuine warmth in his voice. "I can't wait to hear all about it." As Zora approached with their backpacks, Ethan stood. "Thank you for another good day. They've been so much happier coming home this week." "They're making great progress," Zora confirmed, "especially considering all the changes they're adjusting to." Ethan hesitated, then asked, "Do you have any suggestions for weekend activities? We're still new to the area and I want to keep them engaged, but—" He trailed off, the unspoken challenge of solo parenting hanging in the air. "Actually, there's a wonderful children's museum downtown that has a special exhibit on butterflies right now. It's perfect for their age group, and Jefferson Park has a splash pad if the weather stays warm." "That sounds perfect. Thank you." Zora found herself adding, "If you need any other recommendations, here's my number." She scribbled it on a sticky note and handed it to him. "Just for emergencies or questions about the area," she clarified, not wanting to seem unprofessional. Ethan accepted the note with a grateful nod. "We appreciate it. Have a good weekend, Ms. Matthews." "Please call me Zora," she said, before crouching to say goodbye to the twins. "I'll see you both on Monday, remember? We're going to start learning about butterflies to prepare for a field trip to the museum later this month." "Butterflies come from caterpillars," Oliver informed her seriously. "They go to sleep in a chrysalis and wake up different." "That's exactly right," Zora smiled, touched by his enthusiasm for learning despite everything he'd been through. "You're very smart, Oliver." He beamed at the praise, and even Olivia smiled shyly before they departed, hand in hand with their father. Watching them leave, Zora felt an unusual hollowness. She'd grown attached to these children with their old souls and fragile hearts. The thought of their quiet weekend in a half-unpacked apartment made her sad, though she knew it wasn't her place to intrude on their family time. Saturday morning found Zora at her mother's house helping with the weekly cleaning routine they'd established since her father's death. Ellen Matthews, at 54, remained a striking woman despite the toll that multiple sclerosis had taken on her body. She moved slowly with the aid of a walker, directing Zora's efforts from her comfortable armchair. "You're distracted today," Ellen observed as Zora dusted the family photos arranged on the mantel. "Something on your mind at the new job?" Zora paused, holding a framed photo of herself at high school graduation, her father's arm around her shoulders. "There's this family at the center. Twins, a boy and girl, 4 years old. Their mother died a few months ago, possibly by suicide, and they moved here for a fresh start." Ellen's expression softened. "And you've taken them under your wing." Is it that obvious? Zora, you've always had the biggest heart. Even as a child, you were bringing home injured birds and befriending the kids no one else would play with. These children, Zora shook her head, setting down the photograph. They've been through so much, Mom. And their father is trying his best, but he's drowning. Working full-time, no family nearby, still grieving himself. Sounds familiar, Ellen said quietly. The parallel hadn't escaped Zora. After her father's sudden death, her mother had struggled to maintain their household while managing her progressive illness. If not for supportive neighbors and church members who provided meals, rides, and emotional support, they might not have survived that first year of grief. I gave him my number, Zora admitted. For emergencies, I said, but really, I just want to make sure they're okay over the weekend. Ellen studied her daughter thoughtfully. Just be careful, honey. Professional boundaries exist for a reason. You're their teacher, not their family. I know that. Her phone buzzed with a text message. When she checked the screen, her heart jumped at the unfamiliar number and the message, "Hi Zora, this is Ethan Turner. I hope I'm not bothering you, but the twins are asking about the butterfly exhibit you mentioned. Do you know the museum hours?" "It's him, isn't it?" Ellen asked, noting her daughter's expression. "He's asking about the children's museum," Zora explained, quickly typing a response with the hours and a suggestion for the best time to visit to avoid crowds. A reply came moments later. "Thank you. We'll try the 10 a.m. slot. The twins are excited about the butterflies, especially after you mentioned them yesterday." Zora smiled, imagining Oliver earnestly explaining metamorphosis to his father. She sent a quick, "You're welcome, enjoy," before putting her phone away. "You're getting attached," Ellen observed, no judgment in her tone. "I'm just doing my job, Mom." Your job doesn't usually follow you home on weekends." Zora resumed her dusting, unwilling to examine her feelings too closely. Yes, she felt a connection to the Turner family, but it was natural to care about the children in her charge, wasn't it? Especially those facing significant challenges. Sunday passed quietly, with no further messages from Ethan. Zora found herself wondering how their museum visit had gone, whether the twins had enjoyed the butterfly exhibit, whether Ethan had managed to capture any moments of joy with his phone camera to preserve for future memories. By Monday morning, she was eager to return to work, arriving early to prepare butterfly-themed activities for the week. When the Turner family arrived, both twins rushed to her with excited updates about their weekend adventure. "We saw blue butterflies!" Oliver exclaimed. "And I got to hold one on my finger," Olivia added, her usually reserved face animated. "It tickled!" "That sounds wonderful," Zora smiled, looking up to find Ethan watching them with a softness in his expression she hadn't seen before. "Your suggestion was perfect," he said. "They talked about butterflies all weekend. We even checked out some library books about them yesterday." "I'm so glad you enjoyed it," Zora replied, noting that he looked more rested, less haunted. "We're starting a butterfly unit this week, so their museum experience will give them a head start." As they talked, Zora realized that Ellen had been right. She was becoming attached to this family. Their pain resonated with her own past grief, and their resilience inspired her. Watching Ethan kneel to kiss his children goodbye, seeing the twins wave with only minimal anxiety as he left, she felt invested in their healing journey in a way that transcended her professional role. The question was whether that attachment would ultimately help or hinder these children's progress, and what it meant for her own emotional boundaries that she'd worked so hard to establish after her father's death. The butterfly unit captivated the entire class, but none more than the Turner twins. Each morning that week, they arrived with new facts to share or questions about metamorphosis. Oliver was fascinated by the scientific aspects, how caterpillars essentially dissolved inside their chrysalises before reforming as butterflies. Olivia, meanwhile, connected more with the symbolic elements, repeatedly drawing pictures of butterflies in flight that she said represented her mother. "Mommy turned into a star, but maybe she can be a butterfly too," she explained to Zora on Wednesday while working on yet another purple butterfly creation. "Butterflies can fly up to the stars." These moments of openness about their grief encouraged Zora. The twins were finding healthy ways to process their loss, using art and imagination to maintain connections to their mother while slowly adapting to their new reality. Ethan, too, seemed to be finding his footing. Each day, he appeared marginally more put together, his clothes less rumpled, his eyes clearer, his interactions with the twins more engaged. On Thursday morning, he lingered after drop-off, watching as Zora helped the children settle into their morning routine. "They had their first appointment with Dr. Brennan yesterday," he said quietly when she approached. "The child psychologist from your list. She was wonderful with them." "I'm so glad to hear that," Zora replied. "Dr. Brennan has an amazing reputation for working with children experiencing grief." She suggested we establish some rituals to remember Caroline. "The twins are already talking about a butterfly garden on our balcony." He smiled faintly. "Apparently, we have you to thank for that inspiration." "Children often find their own meaningful connections," Zora said. "I just provided the butterfly theme. They're the ones who connected it to their mother." Ethan nodded, his gaze drifting to where Oliver was carefully arranging plastic insects by size during free play. "Dr. Brennan also suggested I might benefit from some counseling myself. She recommended a support group for single parents who've lost spouses." "That sounds like a good idea," Zora said cautiously, aware this was venturing beyond her professional purview. "Grief doesn't have a timeline, but having support can make a huge difference. I haven't had many people to talk to since Caroline died. My parents passed years ago and hers—" He hesitated. "Let's just say they've never been particularly involved." The revelation of his isolation deepened Zora's empathy for this young father struggling to rebuild a life for his family. "It takes courage to seek help," she offered. "The twins are lucky to have a dad who's willing to do that work." Something in Ethan's expression shifted, a softening around his eyes, a subtle relaxation of his jaw. "Thank you for saying that. Sometimes I feel like I'm failing them at every turn. From what I've seen, you're doing an incredible job under impossible circumstances." Their conversation was interrupted by Olivia calling for Zora to help with a puzzle, but the moment of connection lingered. There was a growing ease between them, born of shared concern for the twins, but evolving into something more, a tentative friendship perhaps. Friday afternoon brought a milestone moment. During outdoor play, Olivia not only joined a group game of tag for the first time, but laughed openly when she was caught, her small face transformed by joy. Oliver, meanwhile, had appointed himself assistant teacher during story time, helping younger children find their spots on the reading carpet and shushing anyone who interrupted. "They seem like different children from the ones who arrived 2 weeks ago," Ms. Diane commented as she and Zora observed from the sidelines. "They're finding their place," Zora agreed. "Children are remarkably resilient when they feel safe." "You've been good for them," Ms. Diane said, patting Zora's arm. "Just remember what I said about maintaining professional distance. You're their teacher, not their surrogate mother." The gentle reminder stung more than it should have. "I'm just doing my job." "Of course, dear. I'm not criticizing, just cautioning. I've seen many teachers over the years become too emotionally invested in particular children, especially those in difficult circumstances. It can lead to burnout if you're not careful." Zora nodded, though internally she bristled at the suggestion that she was overstepping. Her connection with the twins felt natural and beneficial. They were thriving under her attention, and she found genuine fulfillment in helping them navigate their grief. What harm could come from that investment? When Ethan arrived for pickup, there was an unusual nervousness in his demeanor. After greeting the twins and collecting their belongings, he approached Zora with an envelope in hand. I wanted to thank you properly for all you've done these past 2 weeks," he said, offering her the envelope. The twins have tickets to a puppet show at the community theater tomorrow afternoon, but I got called in for an emergency shift. I was wondering if you might be available to take them. It's completely fine if you can't. I know it's last minute and probably crosses some kind of professional boundary." Zora hesitated, Ms. Diane's caution echoing in her mind. Taking the twins to a weekend activity was definitely beyond her role as their teacher. Yet the hopeful look on Ethan's face and the excited bouncing of Oliver at his side made refusal difficult. "The puppet show is about a caterpillar who turns into a butterfly," Oliver exclaimed. "Please come with us, Miss Zora." "Please?" Olivia added softly, her large eyes pleading. Zora glanced around, relieved to see Ms. Diane had already left for the day. "What time is the show?" 2:00, Ethan said. "I could drop them at your place or you could pick them up from our apartment, whatever works best for you." The responsible answer would be no. The professional answer would be no. But looking at the twins' expectant faces, Zora found herself saying, "I'd be happy to take them. Why don't I pick them up around 1:30? That way we'll have time to find good seats." The joy that bloomed on both children's faces erased any doubts about her decision. Even Ethan's expression lightened considerably. "You're a lifesaver," he said, handing her the envelope containing the tickets. "I've included our address and emergency contact information. I should be done by 5, so if you could bring them home afterward." "Of course," Zora assured him. "We'll have a great time." As they left, Olivia turned back to wave, a genuine smile transforming her usually solemn face. The sight warmed Zora's heart, confirming that despite crossing a professional boundary, she'd made the right choice. Saturday arrived bright and warm, a perfect day for an outing. Zora dressed carefully in a casual yellow sundress that complemented her dreadlocks, which she'd tied back with a colorful scarf. She wanted to look approachable and fun, a friend rather than a teacher, for this special excursion. The Turners' apartment was in a modern complex near the hospital, with manicured grounds and a central courtyard. Zora found their unit easily, hearing excited voices through the door even before she knocked. Ethan answered, dressed in hospital scrubs with a stethoscope around his neck. "Thank you again for doing this," he said, ushering her inside. The twins are beyond excited. The apartment was modestly furnished but homey, with moving boxes still stacked in corners. Framed photographs lined a bookshelf, mostly of the twins at various ages, and several featuring a blonde woman with a warm smile who must have been Caroline. The twins' artwork from daycare was proudly displayed on the refrigerator. "Miss Zora!" Oliver came racing from a hallway, wearing khaki shorts and a polo shirt, his curls neatly combed. "I'm ready for the puppet show!" Olivia appeared more sedately, wearing a purple dress with butterfly appliques and white sandals. Her hair had been arranged in neat twists with purple beads at the ends. "You look pretty," she told Zora shyly. "Thank you, Olivia. I love your butterfly dress. It's perfect for today's show." Ethan checked his watch. "I need to head out now. You have my cell number if you need anything." He crouched down to the twins' level. "Be good for Miss Zora, okay? Listen to what she says and stay with her at all times." "We will, Daddy," they chorused. He hugged them both tightly, then straightened. "Thank you again," he said to Zora. "This means more than you know." After he left, Zora helped the twins gather their small backpacks containing water bottles and snacks. "Are you both ready for an adventure?" she asked. "Yes." Oliver pumped his fist enthusiastically. "Will the puppets be scary?" Olivia asked, suddenly looking uncertain. "Not at all," Zora assured her. "They're colorful and fun, and the story is about a caterpillar, just like the books we've been reading at school." This reassurance seemed to satisfy Olivia, who slipped her small hand into Zora's as they left the apartment. The community theater was a short drive away, housed in a converted warehouse with exposed brick walls and a cheerful facade painted in primary colors. When they arrived, the lobby was already filled with families waiting for the show. Oliver gripped Zora's other hand tightly, overwhelmed by the crowd. "It's very busy," he whispered, pressing closer to her side. "Don't worry," Zora said, squeezing his hand gently. "We'll stick together. Should we find our seats now?" Both twins nodded eagerly, and Zora guided them into the theater. Their tickets were for the 5th row, providing an excellent view of the small stage decorated to resemble a garden, with oversized flowers and leaves creating a whimsical backdrop. As they settled into their seats, Olivia leaned against Zora's arm. "I wish Daddy could see the butterfly too." "We'll tell him all about it afterward," Zora promised, "and maybe you can draw a picture of your favorite part to show him." The suggestion brightened Olivia's mood. When the lights dimmed and the puppet show began, both twins watched with rapt attention. The story followed a caterpillar's journey through metamorphosis, incorporating music and audience participation that had Oliver clapping enthusiastically and even Olivia calling out responses. Watching their delight, Zora felt a profound sense of rightness. This was what childhood should be, moments of wonder and joy, even amid grief. For the hour of the performance, the twins were simply children enjoying a puppet show, not bereaved siblings carrying trauma. When the final curtain fell and the house lights came up, both children were animated with excitement. "Did you see when the butterfly flew over the audience?" Oliver exclaimed. "It looked so real." "I liked the song about growing wings," Olivia added, humming a few notes. "It was a wonderful show," Zora agreed, helping them gather their belongings. "Should we get ice cream before heading home? I saw a shop just down the street." Their enthusiastic agreement settled the matter. As they walked hand in hand to the ice cream parlor, Zora found herself imagining what it would be like if this were a regular occurrence. Weekend outings, small treats, building happy memories with these children who had already claimed a piece of her heart. The ice cream parlor was a charming retro establishment with black and white checkered floors and red vinyl booths. A jukebox in the corner played oldies while teenagers in paper hats scooped colorful flavors behind a glass counter. The twins pressed their faces to the display, eyes wide at the rainbow of options. "I want chocolate chip," Oliver decided immediately. Olivia took longer, carefully considering each flavor before finally pointing to strawberry. "With sprinkles, please," she added in her soft voice. Zora ordered a scoop of coffee ice cream for herself, and they settled into a booth by the window. The children ate with the single-minded focus unique to preschoolers enjoying a treat, occasionally offering Zora tastes of their selections. "Is this the best day ever?" Zora asked, wiping a chocolate smudge from Oliver's chin with a napkin. "Yes," he declared without hesitation, "except Daddy isn't here." "That would make it even better," Olivia agreed, carefully arranging her sprinkles with her spoon before eating them. "Your daddy would love to be here," Zora assured them. "Sometimes grown-ups have important work they can't miss, but it doesn't mean they don't wish they could be with you instead." "Daddy helps sick people at the hospital," Oliver explained seriously. "Like he tried to help Mommy when she was sick, but her brain was too sick to fix." The casual mention of their mother caught Zora off guard. She'd noticed the twins were gradually becoming more comfortable talking about Caroline, but usually in the context of memories or metaphors like stars and butterflies. This direct reference to her illness was new. "Your mommy had a sickness in her brain?" Zora asked gently, not wanting to pry but sensing Oliver needed to talk. He nodded, licking his spoon. "That's why she was sad a lot and took medicine. But sometimes the medicine didn't work, and she would cry or sleep all day." Olivia, listening intently, added, "Daddy said her brain got sick after we were born. He said it wasn't our fault, but sometimes I think maybe it was." Zora's heart constricted. "Olivia, sweetheart, it absolutely wasn't your fault. Your mommy had an illness called depression. It's a sickness that changes how people feel and think, but it's not caused by anything you or Oliver did." "But we made her tired," Olivia persisted. "She said we were exhausting." "All children can be tiring sometimes," Zora explained carefully. "That's normal. But depression is a medical condition, like having a broken leg or the flu. It needed doctors and medicine to treat. You didn't cause it. and you couldn't have prevented it." Oliver seemed satisfied with this explanation, returning his attention to his rapidly melting ice cream. Olivia remained pensive, pushing the last of her strawberry ice cream around the bowl. "Did your daddy get sick?" she asked after a moment. "No," Zora said. "My daddy had a problem with his heart. It stopped working suddenly one day." "Were you sad?" "Very sad. I still get sad sometimes when I think about him." "Does the sad ever go away?" Olivia's large eyes fixed on Zora's face, seeking reassurance. Zora considered her answer carefully. "The sad changes. At first it's like a big storm that feels like it will never end, but over time it becomes more like rain that comes and goes. There are sunny days in between, and eventually the sunny days are more common than the rainy ones." Olivia nodded, seeming to process this metaphor. "I think I'm still in the storm." "That's okay," Zora said softly. "Storms don't last forever, even when they feel like they might." Oliver, having finished his ice cream, interjected, "Can we go to the park? I saw one next door with swings." The moment of deep conversation dissolved as quickly as it had formed. Zora checked her watch. They still had over an hour before Ethan would be home. "A quick park visit sounds perfect," she agreed, helping them clean up their sticky hands and faces before heading outside. The small neighborhood park was busy with weekend visitors, but they found an empty swing set at the far end. Zora pushed each child in turn, delighting in their giggles and calls for, "Higher, Miss Zora." After swinging, Oliver joined a group of boys playing with toy cars in the sandbox, while Olivia discovered a patch of dandelions perfect for making wishes. Watching them play, Zora felt a complex mix of emotions. These children were blossoming before her eyes, gradually emerging from the dark cloud of grief that had enveloped them. Being part of that process filled her with purpose and joy. Yet there was also an awareness that her role in their lives was temporary and defined by professional boundaries that she'd already begun to stretch. "Miss Zora," Oliver called from the sandbox, "come see my road." As she crossed the playground to admire his engineering, her phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. "Surgery running long, could be another hour. Is that okay?" She quickly replied, "No problem. We're at the park near the ice cream shop. Take your time." His response came immediately. "You're amazing. Thank you." The simple praise shouldn't have warmed her as much as it did. Reminding herself that she was simply helping out a single father in need, not seeking his approval, Zora tucked her phone away and focused on the children. By the time they finally headed back to the apartment, both twins were pleasantly tired from their afternoon of activities. Olivia dozed in her car seat during the short drive, while Oliver provided a detailed recap of every moment of the puppet show, periodically checking to make sure Zora remembered specific parts. "And then the butterfly flew right over our heads," he emphasized for the third time. "Did you see it, Miss Zora?" "I certainly did," she confirmed. "It was beautiful, wasn't it?" "Yeah," he agreed, yawning widely. "I'm going to tell Daddy all about it." At the apartment, Zora used the key Ethan had provided to let them in. Both children immediately kicked off their shoes and flopped onto the living room couch, the day's excitement catching up with them. "How about a quiet activity while we wait for your dad?" Zora suggested. "We could draw pictures of the puppet show to show him." This idea proved popular. Zora found paper and crayons in a box labeled Art Supplies and set the twins up at the kitchen table. While they drew, she took the opportunity to observe the apartment more closely. It was a modest two-bedroom unit, simply but tastefully furnished. The kitchen was small but updated, with stainless steel appliances and granite countertops. The living room featured a comfortable sectional sofa facing a wall-mounted television with bookshelves on either side. One shelf held medical textbooks and journals. Another displayed children's books and toys. What struck Zora most was the evidence of Caroline's continued presence in their lives. Besides the photographs, there were small touches throughout. A woman's sweater draped over a chair, a collection of seashells arranged on a windowsill, coffee mugs with his and hers labels, Ethan hadn't erased his late wife from their home, suggesting he was finding healthy ways to honor her memory while moving forward. A framed photo on the entryway table caught Zora's attention. It showed Ethan and Caroline on what appeared to be their wedding day, both radiantly happy. Caroline had been beautiful, with wavy blonde hair, bright blue eyes, and a smile that lit up her entire face. They made a striking couple, her fair coloring a contrast to Ethan's warm brown complexion. "That's Mommy when she married Daddy," Olivia said, suddenly beside her. "She was pretty, wasn't she?" "Very pretty," Zora agreed, startled by the child's silent approach. "And she had a beautiful smile just like yours." Olivia's hand reached out to touch the frame. "Daddy says I have her eyes." "I can see that," Zora said, noticing for the first time the clear blue of Olivia's eyes, a feature she'd inherited from her mother, along with her more reserved nature. "Oliver looks like Daddy," Olivia continued, "but I look like Mommy." "You're both perfect combinations of your parents," Zora assured her. "That's how you keep pieces of them with you always." Olivia seemed satisfied with this explanation and returned to her drawing. Zora followed, admiring the children's artistic interpretations of the puppet show. Oliver's drawing featured an enormous butterfly with remarkably accurate wing patterns, while Olivia had created a garden scene filled with flowers and floating butterflies of all colors. "These are wonderful," Zora praised. "Your daddy will love them." The sound of a key in the lock announced Ethan's arrival. The twins immediately abandoned their artwork and raced to the door, calling excitedly, "Daddy's home! Daddy's home!" Ethan looked exhausted but brightened visibly at the sight of his children. He crouched down to receive their enthusiastic hugs, listening as they both tried to tell him about their day simultaneously. "Whoa, one at a time," he laughed, standing up with Olivia in his arms while Oliver continued tugging at his scrub top. "Let me say hello to Miss Zora first." "Hi," Zora said, suddenly feeling awkward in this domestic setting. "We had a great time. The puppet show was excellent." "And we had ice cream," Oliver announced. "I got chocolate chip." "Ice cream too?" Ethan raised an eyebrow, though his smile remained. "Sounds like Miss Zora spoiled you." "It was a special occasion," Zora said. "They were so well-behaved during the show, they deserved a treat." Ethan set Olivia down and moved deeper into the apartment, removing his jacket. "I can't thank you enough for doing this. The surgery was complicated. A little boy with a ruptured appendix. We couldn't reschedule." "You don't need to explain," Zora assured him. "I was happy to help, and we genuinely had fun." "We made pictures for you, Daddy," Oliver remembered suddenly, running back to the table to retrieve their artwork. Both twins proudly presented their drawings, explaining each element in detail. Ethan examined them with appropriate admiration. "These are fantastic. We'll hang them on the refrigerator right away." He looked up at Zora. "Would you like to stay for dinner? It's the least I can offer after you spent your entire Saturday with the kids. Nothing fancy, just pizza delivery probably." The invitation was tempting. The thought of returning to her empty apartment held little appeal compared to the warmth of this family setting. But Ms. Diane's caution about professional boundaries echoed in her mind. "That's very kind," she said reluctantly, "but I should probably get going. I have some lesson planning to do for next week." "Of course," Ethan nodded, though Zora thought she detected disappointment in his expression. "Another time, perhaps." "No, Miss Zora, stay!" Oliver protested, wrapping his arms around her legs. "We can show you our rooms and all our toys." "Please stay," Olivia added, her blue eyes pleading. Zora looked from the children to their father, her resolve weakening. "Well, I suppose lesson planning can wait until tomorrow." The twins cheered, and even Ethan's tired face lit up. "Great! I'll order the pizza. Any preferences?" As he reached for his phone to place the order, Zora found herself wondering if she'd made the right decision. This was definitely crossing a line from professional to personal, yet it felt so natural to be here with them, to extend their outing into an evening together. "Vegetarian for me, if that's okay," she said, deciding to set aside her concerns for now. One dinner wouldn't compromise her professionalism, and the joy on the twins' faces made any potential boundary issues seem worth the risk. While waiting for the pizza to arrive, the twins eagerly gave Zora a tour of their apartment. Oliver's room was decorated with dinosaur posters and a solar system mobile hanging from the ceiling. Plastic dinosaur figures were arranged in elaborate battle scenes on his dresser, and books about space and prehistoric creatures filled a small bookshelf. "Daddy says I can paint my walls green when we're done unpacking," he announced proudly. "Green is the best color." Olivia's room, by contrast, featured fairy lights strung around the windows and a lavender comforter on her bed. A collection of stuffed animals occupied one corner, and watercolor paintings, clearly Olivia's work, were taped to the walls. "I had a pink room in Boston," she explained solemnly, "but Daddy says we can make this one purple because it's my second favorite." As they returned to the living room, Ethan was setting the table with paper plates and napkins. "Sorry for the casual setup," he apologized to Zora. "We're still figuring out where everything is." "No need to apologize," she assured him. "Paper plates make perfect sense with pizza." The doorbell rang, announcing the arrival of their dinner. While Ethan paid the delivery person, Zora helped the twins wash their hands. This simple domestic activity felt surprisingly comfortable, as if she'd been part of their routine for months rather than hours. Dinner was a lively affair. The twins, excited by Zora's presence, chattered more than she'd ever heard them at daycare, interrupting each other to share stories and ask questions. Ethan, despite his evident fatigue, engaged enthusiastically, his love for his children shining through every interaction. "Miss Zora, do you have any kids?" Oliver asked suddenly, his face smeared with pizza sauce. "Oliver," Ethan admonished gently, passing him a napkin. "That's a personal question." "It's okay," Zora smiled. "No, I don't have children of my own. That's why I love working at Wildflower. I get to spend my days with amazing kids like you two." "But don't you want babies?" Olivia pressed, her head tilted curiously. Zora hesitated, caught off guard by the direct question. "Maybe someday. Right now I'm focusing on my career and helping my mom, who isn't well." "Is your mom sick like our mommy was?" Oliver asked, his expression growing serious. "Different kind of sick," Zora explained. "My mom has something called multiple sclerosis. It makes it hard for her to walk sometimes, so I help take care of her." Ethan watched this exchange with interest. "I didn't realize your mother was ill. That must be challenging to balance with your work." "It can be," Zora admitted. "But we manage. She's incredibly strong and independent, sometimes too independent for her own good. She hates asking for help." "That sounds familiar," Ethan said with a self-deprecating smile. "I'm still learning that it's okay to accept help sometimes." He glanced meaningfully at the twins. "Today was good for all of us. The kids got a fun outing, and I got to save a child's life without worrying about childcare." "I'm glad it worked out," Zora said sincerely. "And I genuinely enjoyed spending time with them. They're remarkable children." After dinner, Ethan insisted on clearing the table alone while Zora and the twins settled in the living room. Oliver selected a picture book about, unsurprisingly, butterflies, and climbed into Zora's lap for a story. Olivia leaned against her side, thumb drifting toward her mouth as she listened. The domesticity of the moment wasn't lost on Zora. This was precisely the kind of boundary crossing Ms. Diane had cautioned against, forming attachments that went beyond the professional relationship. Yet it felt so natural, so right, to be here with these children who had clearly bonded with her. From the kitchen, Ethan watched them with an unreadable expression. When he caught Zora's eye, he smiled warmly before turning back to loading the dishwasher. There was something in that look, gratitude certainly, but perhaps something more, that sent an unexpected flutter through her chest. By the time the story ended, both twins were yawning widely. "I think it's bath time and then bed for these two," Ethan announced, checking his watch. "It's been an exciting day." "No!" Oliver protested weakly even as he rubbed his eyes. "I'm not tired." "Me neither," Olivia echoed, though she was practically falling asleep against Zora's arm. "Tell you what," Ethan bargained. "If you get ready for bed quickly, maybe Miss Zora can help tuck you in before she leaves." This proposition was met with sleepy agreement. While Ethan supervised baths and pajamas, Zora tidied the living room, gathering crayons and returning books to shelves. She found herself studying the family photos again, particularly drawn to images of Caroline with the twins as babies. The woman's smile appeared genuine in these early pictures, her eyes bright as she held her newborns. Had postpartum depression set in immediately, or had there been a period of joy before the darkness descended? "They're ready for tucking in," Ethan announced, returning to the living room. "Oliver is insisting that you have to see his glow-in-the-dark stars before you leave." In Oliver's room, the boy was already in bed, his dinosaur pajamas rumpled as he pointed excitedly to his ceiling. "Daddy put them up just like in our old house. Watch this." He reached for a switch beside his bed, and the overhead light went out, revealing a constellation of glowing stars above. "Wow," Zora said, genuinely impressed. "It's like sleeping under the real night sky." "Daddy says stars are really far away, but they look close," Oliver explained, his voice growing sleepy. "Like Mommy. She's far away but still watching us." Zora's heart squeezed at his childish wisdom. That's a beautiful way to think about it. She leaned down to tuck his blanket more securely around him, and he surprised her by throwing his arms around her neck in a tight hug. "Thank you for the puppet show and ice cream, Miss Zora." "You're very welcome, Oliver. Sweet dreams, Space Explorer." Next door, Olivia was already tucked into her purple bed, her collection of stuffed animals arranged carefully around her. "Will you come back tomorrow?" she asked as Zora approached. "Not tomorrow, sweetheart. I'll see you at school on Monday, though." "Promise?" "I promise." Olivia seemed satisfied with this assurance. "Can you check for monsters before you go?" "Daddy already did, but sometimes they come back." Zora solemnly checked under the bed and in the closet, declaring both spaces completely monster-free. As she straightened, Olivia held out a small stuffed rabbit. "This is Hoppy. He keeps bad dreams away. You can borrow him if you want." The offer touched Zora deeply. "That's very kind of you, Olivia, but I think Hoppy should stay with you. He has an important job right here." Olivia nodded, clutching the rabbit to her chest. "Good night, Miss Zora." "Good night, butterfly girl. Sleep tight." In the hallway, Ethan was waiting, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed. "You're a natural with them," he said quietly as they walked back to the living room. "They've never taken to anyone like this since Caroline died." "They're easy to love," Zora replied honestly. "And they're healing. I see it every day at the center. Small steps forward, moments of joy breaking through the grief." "I see it too," Ethan agreed, running a hand over his short hair. "And I know you're a big part of that. The way you connect with them, understand them." He paused. "It means a lot. To them and to me." There was something in his tone that made Zora glance up sharply, finding his gaze more intense than she'd expected. The moment stretched between them, charged with unspoken meaning, before she looked away. "I should probably get going," she said, reaching for her purse on the counter. "It's getting late." "Of course." Ethan straightened, his professional demeanor returning. "Thank you again for today. It was above and beyond." "Any time," Zora said, then quickly amended. I was happy to help. The twins are wonderful." At the door, an awkward moment ensued. Should they shake hands? Hug? In the end, Ethan simply opened the door for her with a warm smile. "Drive safely. I'll see you Monday at drop-off." "Good night, Ethan." As she drove home, Zora's mind replayed moments from the day, the twins' delight at the puppet show, their serious conversations over ice cream, the cozy feeling of reading stories in their living room, and beneath those memories, a growing awareness of Ethan himself, his dedication to his children, his quiet strength in the face of tragedy, the surprising connection she felt forming between them. Ms. Diane's warning about professional boundaries seemed both pertinent and insufficient to address the complexity of what was developing. This wasn't just about becoming too attached to the children in her care. It was about developing feelings for their father as well, feelings that could complicate everything if she allowed them to grow. Sunday morning found Zora at her mother's house again, helping with weekend chores and preparing meals for the week ahead. Ellen noticed her distraction almost immediately. "You're a million miles away," she observed as Zora chopped vegetables for a stew. "Did something happen with those twins yesterday?" Zora hesitated, then shared the details of her day with the Turner family, including the dinner and bedtime routine. She found herself describing Ethan more thoroughly than necessary, his gentle parenting style, his dedication to his job, the way his smile transformed his tired face. Ellen listened without interruption, but her raised eyebrows spoke volumes. "Zora," she said finally, "you know I support your compassionate heart, but this situation is becoming complicated. You're their teacher, not a family friend or—" She paused significantly. "Anything else?" "I know that, Mom. I'm just helping a single father who's struggling." "And developing feelings for him in the process?" Zora set down her knife with more force than intended. "I didn't say that." "You didn't have to," Ellen replied gently. "I recognize that look. It's the same one you had when you talked about Marcus in college. This is completely different. Ethan is a parent at my workplace. I'm just invested in his children's well-being." Ellen hummed skeptically. "Just be careful, baby. Even if your intentions are purely professional, his might not be. A grieving man with young children might be looking for more than just a good teacher for his kids." "That's not fair," Zora protested. "Ethan hasn't been inappropriate in any way. He's still grieving his wife. Grief and loneliness make people reach for comfort, sometimes before they're ready. I'm not saying he's using you, just that emotions are complicated after loss. I remember how your father's cousins started bringing casseroles and offering to help me with chores suspiciously soon after his funeral." The comparison made Zora uncomfortable. "This isn't like that at all. Ethan genuinely needed childcare yesterday. It was a medical emergency." "I believe you," Ellen said, patting her daughter's hand. "Just promise me you'll reflect on your motivations and keep appropriate boundaries. That's all I'm asking." "I promise," Zora agreed, though inwardly she wondered if it was already too late for that. Monday morning arrived with a spring downpour that turned the daycare parking lot into a maze of puddles. Zora arrived early, as usual, but found herself watching the door with unusual anticipation. When the Turner family finally appeared, shaking raindrops from their colorful umbrellas, her heart lifted inexplicably. "Miss Zora!" the twins called in unison, rushing toward her with excitement that warmed her from within. "Good morning, butterfly explorers," she greeted them, crouching to receive their enthusiastic hugs. "Did you have a good Sunday?" As the twins launched into detailed accounts of their day at the park and a video call with their maternal grandparents, Zora glanced up to find Ethan watching them with a soft expression that made her pulse quicken. When their eyes met, his smile deepened, creating crinkles at the corners of his eyes that hadn't been visible beneath the exhaustion of previous weeks. "They talked about you all day yesterday," he said quietly as the twins removed their rain gear. "Olivia even set a place for you at lunch just in case you decided to visit." "That's sweet," Zora replied, touched by the gesture. "They're becoming so attached." "Not just them," Ethan murmured, so softly she wasn't sure she'd heard correctly. Before she could respond, he cleared his throat and spoke more normally. "I was wondering if we could talk sometime this week, about the twins' progress and other things." The ambiguity of "other things" sent a flutter of anticipation through her. "Of course. I'm available after closing most days." "Perfect. How about Wednesday? I can arrange to leave work early." "Wednesday works," she agreed, aware of Ms. Diane watching them from the front desk, her expression unreadable. As Ethan said goodbye to the twins and headed out into the rain, Zora felt a growing certainty that Wednesday's conversation would mark a turning point, though whether toward greater professional clarity or increased personal complication remained to be seen. Wednesday arrived with painful slowness. Zora found herself distracted during morning activities, checking the clock more frequently than usual. The twins, picking up on her nervous energy, were likewise unsettled, with Oliver becoming uncharacteristically rowdy during outdoor play and Olivia retreating into silence during story time. "Everything okay?" Tasha asked during lunch preparation. "You seem tense today." "Just a lot on my mind," Zora replied vaguely, arranging apple slices on paper plates. "I'm meeting with the twins' father after work to discuss their progress." "Ah," Tasha nodded knowingly. "The handsome doctor. No wonder you're distracted." "It's a professional meeting," Zora insisted, though the flutter in her stomach suggested otherwise. "Of course it is," Tasha winked. "Just like all those professional meetings I had with my daughter's soccer coach before we started dating." Zora chose not to continue that line of conversation, focusing instead on distributing lunch to hungry preschoolers. Still, Tasha's teasing lingered in her mind. Was her interest in meeting with Ethan truly professional, or was she allowing personal feelings to blur important boundaries? The afternoon crawled by, each minute stretching impossibly long. By closing time, most children had been picked up, including the Turner twins, who had gone home with their regular sitter, a nursing student who covered the afternoons when Ethan worked late shifts. Ms. Diane had already left for a dental appointment, leaving Zora to lock up after her meeting. At precisely 5:30, there was a knock at the front door. Ethan stood on the doorstep, looking more put together than Zora had ever seen him. He'd traded his usual scrubs for dark jeans and a navy button-down shirt that complemented his warm brown skin. His close-cropped hair was freshly trimmed, and he'd shaved the stubble that had become a constant feature during their early interactions. "Hi," he said as she let him in, a hint of nervousness in his voice. "Thanks for meeting with me." "Of course," Zora replied, suddenly conscious of her own appearance, the simple yellow dress she'd chosen that morning, her dreadlocks pulled back with a patterned scarf. "We can talk in the conference room." The small meeting space felt oddly intimate as they sat across from each other at the oval table. Zora pulled out her notebook, attempting to establish a professional tone. "So, you wanted to discuss the twins' progress?" "Yes," Ethan nodded, leaning forward slightly. "They've changed so much in just a few weeks here. Oliver is talking more about his feelings instead of acting out, and Olivia seems less withdrawn. Dr. Brennan says their grief processing is becoming healthier. They're finding ways to keep memories of Caroline while still engaging with their new life here." "I've noticed those changes too," Zora agreed. "They're incredibly resilient children. The butterfly theme has been especially helpful for Olivia. It gives her a positive way to think about transformation and change." "That was your insight," Ethan said softly. "You saw what she needed before any of us did." The gratitude in his eyes made Zora glance down at her notes. "I'm just doing my job. The butterfly unit was already planned when they arrived." "It's more than that," Ethan insisted. "You've connected with them in a way no one else has since Caroline died. You understand them." Zora struggled to maintain professional distance as the conversation ventured into more personal territory. Children often respond to consistency and genuine care. They know when adults are truly present with them. Is that all it is? Just being present? Well, that and patience. Children process grief differently than adults. They need space to express their feelings in ways that make sense to them. Ethan nodded thoughtfully. "You mentioned once that you lost your father as a teenager. Do you think that experience helps you understand what they're going through?" The question caught her off guard. "I suppose it might. I remember how disorienting grief felt at 16, like the world kept moving while I was frozen in place. For 4-year-olds, That disconnect must be even more confusing. You never talk about him. Your father, Ethan observed. What was he like? Zora hesitated, unsure whether to redirect the conversation to the twins or accept this personal turn. Something in Ethan's genuine interest made her choose the latter. He was wonderful, she said simply. Emmanuel Matthews, everyone called him Manny. He drove a delivery truck for a furniture company, but his passion was woodworking. He made the most beautiful pieces in his workshop behind our house. Tables, chairs, toys for me when I was little. He always smelled like sawdust and coffee. He sounds like a good man. The best, Zora agreed, surprised by the ease with which memories flowed after years of careful compartmentalization. He died of a heart attack when I was 16. It was sudden, no warning. One day he was there, teaching me to sand wood properly, and the next, she trailed off. My mom was already showing early signs of MS then, so I became her caretaker while trying to finish high school. That's a heavy burden for a teenager. It was hard, Zora admitted, but it taught me resilience, the same quality I see in your children. Ethan's expression softened. Thank you for sharing that with me. It helps me understand why you're so good with Oliver and Olivia. You've walked a similar path. The conversation had drifted far from professional assessment, but Zora found she didn't want to redirect it. There was something liberating in sharing her past with someone who seemed to truly understand the impact of loss. You mentioned wanting to discuss other things as well, she prompted after a moment. Ethan shifted in his chair, a flash of nervousness crossing his features. Yes, He took a deep breath. This is probably inappropriate, and please tell me if it is, but I wanted to ask if you might consider spending more time with us outside of school hours. Zora blinked, uncertain of his meaning. Like babysitting again? No, not exactly. He rubbed the back of his neck. More like joining us for activities sometimes. The twins adore you, and they had so much fun on Saturday. I thought maybe we could visit the botanical gardens this weekend. They have a butterfly pavilion that Olivia would love. Or the children's museum again, or even just the park. The invitation hung between them, its implications unclear. Was he asking for her companionship for the children's benefit, or was there more to it? Ethan, she began carefully, I care deeply about Oliver and Olivia, but I'm their teacher. There are professional boundaries to consider. I understand that, he said quickly, and I'd never want to put your job at risk. It's just… He paused, seeming to struggle for words. The twins need positive influences in their lives, especially female ones, and I could use the support of someone who understands what they're going through. The request was reasonable on its face, a single father seeking community for his bereaved children. Yet Zora sensed undercurrents that neither of them was directly addressing. I'm not sure it's appropriate, she said gently. Ms. Diane has already cautioned me about maintaining professional distance. Disappointment flickered across Ethan's face, quickly masked. Of course, I completely understand. It was presumptuous of me to ask. It's not that I don't want to, Zora found herself saying, surprised by her own admission. It's just complicated. Hope returned to his expression. What if we make it less complicated? What if I request a different teacher for the twins? Then you wouldn't be their direct caregiver, and the professional conflict would be removed. The suggestion startled her. You'd change their classroom? After they've just started getting comfortable? It's not ideal, he acknowledged. But Tasha seems wonderful, and they know her already. If it meant we could… He stopped abruptly, then continued more carefully. If it meant you could be part of their lives in a different capacity, it might be worth the adjustment. The implication was clear now. This wasn't just about providing female influence for his children. Ethan was interested in Zora personally. The realization sent a complex wave of emotions through her. Flattery, anxiety, and something warmer she wasn't ready to name. That seems like a drastic solution, she said, buying time to organize her thoughts. and potentially disruptive for Oliver and Olivia, who are just establishing a sense of security here. Ethan leaned back, disappointment evident in the set of his shoulders. You're right. I'm thinking selfishly. The twins' stability should come first. His immediate prioritization of his children's needs over his own desires only increased Zora's admiration for him. It's not selfish to want connection, she said softly, especially after what you've been through. A heavy silence settled between them, weighted with unspoken possibilities. Finally, Ethan spoke again, his voice quieter. There's something else I need to tell you, he said, not quite meeting her eyes. Something important about our family situation that might change how you see all of this. The serious tone sent a ripple of anxiety through Zora. What is it? Ethan seemed to brace himself. It's about Caroline, and about the twins. He paused, then continued with evident difficulty. Caroline wasn't their biological mother. The revelation hung in the air between them, unexpected and momentous. I don't understand, Zora said finally. The twins talk about her as their mother. They have memories of her. She was their mother in every way that matters, Ethan clarified quickly. She raised them from infancy, loved them completely. But biologically, she wasn't related to them. Are they adopted? Zora asked, trying to make sense of this new information. Ethan shook his head. No, they're biologically mine. The twins were born through a surrogate, a college student who needed money for tuition. Caroline and I had planned to have children naturally, but she had medical issues that made pregnancy dangerous for her. So the surrogate is their biological mother? No, Ethan said, looking increasingly uncomfortable. We used Caroline's eggs and my sperm with a gestational surrogate. At least, that was the plan. Zora waited, sensing there was more to the story, something significant Ethan was working up to revealing. When the twins were born, he continued haltingly, it became clear that something had gone wrong at the fertility clinic. They didn't have Caroline's coloring at all, none of the blonde hair or fair skin of her family. Tests confirmed that while they're definitely my biological children, the eggs used weren't Caroline's. Oh, Zora breathed, beginning to understand. There was a mix-up at the clinic? Yes, Ethan confirmed. The clinic admitted fault eventually. Someone had mislabeled samples. The eggs used came from another client, an African-American woman who was freezing her eggs before cancer treatment. The pieces clicked into place for Zora. The twins' cinnamon brown skin, their tightly curled hair, features that seemed perfectly natural for children of Ethan's complexion, but would have been surprising with a blonde, blue-eyed biological mother. Did you ever find out who she was? Zora asked softly. Their biological mother? Ethan nodded, his expression grave. The clinic was legally required to inform both parties of the mix-up. Her name is Janelle Wilson. She was 26 at the time, a doctoral student in marine biology. She survived her cancer treatment, thankfully. Has she been involved in the twins' lives? No, Ethan said. When the mistake was discovered, everyone was in shock. Janelle was focused on her health battle, and Caroline was already bonded with the babies. After much discussion and legal consultation, we all agreed that Caroline and I would raise the twins as our own, with no obligation for Janelle to be involved unless she wanted to be or unless the twins needed her for medical reasons someday. And Caroline accepted this situation, raising children that weren't biologically hers? She loved them from the moment she saw them, Ethan said firmly. Biology never mattered to her, but he hesitated. The situation did add stress to an already difficult time. Caroline had been treated for depression before our marriage, and the pregnancy mix-up, followed by the challenges of raising twins, triggered a severe postpartum depression that never fully resolved. Zora sat back, processing the complications of this family history. Why are you telling me this now? Ethan met her gaze directly. Because I want you to have the complete picture before deciding whether to be part of our lives. The twins don't know any of this yet. They're too young to understand. but someday they'll need to know their full story, and anyone close to them should be prepared for that reality. The implication that he was considering her as someone who might be close to them in the future sent a flutter through Zora's chest. Yet the practical complications remained. "This doesn't change the professional boundary issues," she pointed out. "I know," Ethan acknowledged, "but I felt you deserved to know the whole truth about our family. Caroline's passing is only part of our story." Zora nodded slowly, appreciating his honesty while feeling the weight of this new information. "Thank you for trusting me with this. It helps me understand the twins, and you, better." Ethan checked his watch reluctantly. "I should go. The sitter can't stay late today." As they rose to leave, an awkward tension lingered between them, a sense of unfinished business, of conversations yet to be had. At the door, Ethan turned to her once more. "I know I've put you in a difficult position," he said quietly. "Take all the time you need to think about everything. Whatever you decide regarding boundaries and involvement with our family, I'll respect it completely." "Thank you," Zora replied, touched by his understanding. "I need to think this through carefully." "Of course." He hesitated, then added, "For what it's worth, meeting you has been the best thing to happen to our family since we moved here. Whatever comes next, I'm grateful for that." As she watched him walk to his car, Zora felt the ground shifting beneath her feet. What had begun as a professional connection to grieving children had evolved into something far more complex, a potential relationship that could bring joy but also complications she'd never anticipated. Zora drove to her mother's house directly from work, her mind churning with the implications of Ethan's revelation. The modest ranch-style home where she'd grown up was illuminated by a single porch light as she pulled into the driveway. Inside, she found Ellen in the kitchen, carefully chopping vegetables for dinner, her movements deliberate to compensate for the tremors in her hands. "You're just in time," Ellen greeted her. "The chicken's almost ready. Could you set the table?" Zora moved through the familiar routine mechanically, placing plates and silverware while her thoughts remained fixed on the Turner family and their complicated history. Only after they'd sat down to eat did Ellen comment on her unusual silence. "Something happened today," she observed, studying her daughter's face. "With that family you've been helping?" Zora nodded, unsurprised by her mother's perceptiveness. "Ethan, Dr. Turner, came to meet with me after work. He told me something unexpected about the twins." Over dinner, Zora related the fertility clinic mix-up, the twins' biological origins, and Caroline's struggle with depression. Ellen listened without interruption, her expression thoughtful. "And now he wants you to be part of their lives," Ellen concluded when Zora finished, "not just as their teacher. He suggested I could spend time with them outside of school, museum visits, park outings, things like that. For the twins' benefit, he said. But not only for their benefit," Ellen added perceptively. "No," Zora admitted. "I think he's interested in me personally, though he was careful not to state it directly." "And how do you feel about that possibility?" Zora pushed her food around her plate, struggling to articulate the conflicting emotions within her. "I'm drawn to him," she finally confessed. "He's a good father, compassionate, intelligent. And the twins," she smiled involuntarily, "they've captured my heart completely." "But," Ellen prompted gently, "but it's complicated. Professionally, emotionally, practically. I'm their teacher. He's still grieving his wife. And now there's this additional layer with their biological mother." Ellen reached across the table to pat her daughter's hand. "Life is rarely tidy, Zora. The most meaningful relationships often come with complications." "That doesn't mean I should ignore professional boundaries or common sense." "No, it doesn't," Ellen agreed. "But it also doesn't mean you should automatically reject a potentially beautiful connection because the timing isn't perfect or the circumstances are unusual." Zora looked up, surprised by her mother's perspective. "I thought you'd caution me against getting involved. I cautioned you about overstepping professional boundaries while maintaining your current role as their teacher." Ellen clarified. But if you're genuinely developing feelings for this man and his children, that's a different conversation. The question becomes whether you're willing to make changes to pursue those feelings ethically. Changes like what? Like requesting that the twins be permanently assigned to another teacher, or even considering a different position within the center, or elsewhere, if necessary. The suggestion gave Zora pause. She loved her new role at Wildflower, the responsibility and respect it brought. Would she really consider altering her career trajectory for a relationship that might not even work out? "I don't know if I'm ready to make that kind of choice," she admitted. Ellen smiled gently. "You don't have to decide everything tonight. Take time to reflect. But remember, life's greatest gifts sometimes require us to take risks and make sacrifices." Later that evening, as Zora drove home to her apartment, her mother's words echoed in her mind. Was she willing to take a risk on Ethan and the twins? And if so, what would that mean for her professional life? Thursday morning arrived with no clear answers. At the center, Zora found herself watching the door with nervous anticipation, unsure how to interact with Ethan after their revealing conversation. When he arrived with the twins, however, his manner was perfectly professional, warm but appropriate, with no hint of pressure or expectation. "Good morning, Miss Zora," Oliver called, rushing to show her a toy dinosaur he'd brought for show and tell. "This is Triceratops. He has 3 horns to protect himself from the big mean dinosaurs." "That's fascinating, Oliver," she replied, kneeling to examine the plastic figure. "Where did you learn about Triceratops?" "Daddy got me a dinosaur book at the library," he explained proudly. "We read it last night and I remembered all the facts." Olivia approached more sedately, clutching a small purple journal. "I brought my butterfly book," she said quietly. "I'm drawing all the butterflies I see." Zora admired the childish sketches, each labeled in Ethan's neat handwriting with names like Monarch and Swallowtail. "These are beautiful, Olivia. You're becoming a real butterfly expert." Throughout this exchange, Ethan remained slightly apart, giving Zora space while attending to the twins' needs. Only when the children were settled with their classmates did he approach her. "I hope I didn't overwhelm you yesterday," he said in a low voice. "If I crossed a line, I apologize." "You didn't," Zora assured him. "I appreciate your honesty. I just need time to process everything." "Of course." He nodded, his expression relieved. "Take all the time you need. No pressure." As he turned to leave, Zora found herself adding, "The butterfly pavilion sounds wonderful. The twins would love it." Ethan paused, a cautious hope lighting his eyes. "Does that mean—" "It means I'm still thinking," she clarified. "But I haven't ruled it out." His smile was worth the momentary breach of her uncertainty. "I'm glad to hear that. Have a good day, Zora." The use of her first name, without the formal Miss, didn't escape her notice. Throughout the day, Zora found herself observing the twins with new understanding. Certain features that she'd attributed to Ethan, Oliver's determined chin, Olivia's expressive eyebrows, now made her wonder about Janelle Wilson, the woman who had unknowingly contributed half of their genetic makeup. Did she share Olivia's artistic tendencies or Oliver's fascination with science? Did she know how beautifully her biological children were growing, even under such difficult circumstances? During her lunch break, Zora made a decision. She would speak with Ms. Diane about the situation, not revealing the Turners' private information, but addressing the potential conflict of interest that was developing. Professional transparency seemed the best first step toward whatever came next. Ms. Diane listened attentively as Zora explained that she had developed a personal connection with the Turner family and was considering spending time with them outside of work. "I see," the older woman said when Zora finished. "And you're concerned about the professional implications?" "Yes," Zora confirmed. "I want to be ethical about this. If it's inappropriate given my role as their teacher, I need to know that." Ms. Diane considered this thoughtfully. There's no explicit policy against staff forming friendships with families outside of work hours. However, when it comes to the primary caregiver for specific children, we do encourage professional boundaries to avoid conflicts of interest or perceptions of favoritism. I understand, Zora nodded. Would it be better if the twins were assigned to another teacher? Possibly, though at this point in their adjustment, a change might be disruptive. Ms. Diane studied Zora with shrewd eyes. This seems like more than just a casual friendship you're contemplating. Zora felt heat rise in her cheeks. Dr. Turner and I have a connection, she admitted. Nothing has happened, but there's potential for something more than friendship. I see, Ms. Diane said again, her expression softening. Zora, you're an exceptional educator with a genuine gift for connecting with children in need. The Turner twins have flourished under your care, but I would be remiss if I didn't caution you about the complexities of becoming involved with a grieving parent. I know it's complicated, Zora acknowledged. His wife died only months ago. Grief doesn't operate on a convenient timetable, Ms. Diane said gently. I've seen many families navigate loss and the path is rarely linear. There can be periods of healing followed by unexpected setbacks, especially around anniversaries or milestone events. I understand that. Do you? Ms. Diane pressed. Are you prepared to support not only those children through their ongoing grief journey, but also a partner who may still be processing his own trauma? That's a significant emotional undertaking. The question gave Zora pause. Was she ready for that level of complexity? Her own grief for her father had taken years to process into something manageable, and she'd been an adolescent with a more developed understanding of death. Supporting two grieving preschoolers and their father would require tremendous emotional resources. I don't know, she answered honestly, but I care about them enough to try. Ms. Diane nodded, apparently satisfied with this response. Here's what I suggest. For now, maintain your role as the twins' teacher while limiting personal interaction outside of work. If your relationship with Dr. Turner progresses to a point where dual roles become untenable, we can discuss transitioning the twins to another classroom or adjusting your responsibilities. Does that seem reasonable? Yes, Zora agreed, relieved by the practical approach. Thank you for understanding. I was young once too, you know, Ms. Diane smiled. The heart doesn't always follow convenient paths. That evening, Zora texted Ethan, I've been thinking about your invitation. Could we talk after drop-off tomorrow? His response came quickly. Absolutely. I'll make sure to have extra time in the morning. The next day, after the twins had settled into their morning routine, Zora and Ethan stepped into the small conference room for privacy. I've given a lot of thought to your invitation, Zora began, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, and to everything you shared about your family's situation. Ethan nodded, his expression carefully neutral, though she could sense his tension. I care deeply about Oliver and Olivia, she continued, and I've developed feelings for you that go beyond professional courtesy. But the timing and circumstances are complicated. I understand, Ethan said softly, disappointment evident in his voice. You're their teacher. It's not appropriate. That's part of it, Zora acknowledged. I've spoken with Ms. Diane about potential conflicts of interest. But there's more to consider. You're still processing Caroline's death. The twins are adapting to life without her, and I have my own professional goals and family responsibilities. Ethan nodded again, his shoulders slumping slightly. I appreciate your honesty. I know I've put you in an awkward position. I haven't finished, Zora said, offering a small smile. While I believe we need to move carefully and respect professional boundaries, I'm not saying no to getting to know each other better. Hope flickered in his eyes. You're not? No, she confirmed. I'd like to accept your invitation to the Butterfly Pavilion as a first step towards seeing if there's potential for something meaningful between us. But with some conditions. Name them, Ethan said, sitting up straighter. First, we need to be transparent with Ms. Diane about our interactions outside of work. Second, if our relationship develops, We'll need to make arrangements for the twins to transition to another teacher to avoid conflicts of interest. And third, she took a deep breath, we need to move at a pace that respects your grief process and gives the twins stability. Ethan considered these conditions thoughtfully. Those all seem reasonable and responsible. I'd add one more, if I may. We should be clear with the twins from the beginning that we're friends who enjoy spending time together, not create expectations about what our relationship might become until we're more certain ourselves. Zora nodded, impressed by his consideration for his children's emotional well-being. Agreed. Children need clear, honest communication, especially after experiencing significant loss. So, Ethan said, a cautious smile forming, does this mean you'll join us at the Butterfly Pavilion tomorrow? Yes, Zora confirmed, returning his smile. I'd like that very much. As they finalized plans for the outing, Zora felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation. She was stepping into uncharted territory, a potential relationship with a grieving father and his children who carried a complex family history. Yet beneath the complications, she sensed possibility, the chance to build something beautiful and meaningful with people who had already captured her heart. Later that day, during outdoor play, Olivia approached Zora with uncharacteristic excitement. Daddy said you're coming with us to see the butterflies tomorrow. That's right, Zora confirmed, helping the little girl climb onto a swing. Would you like me to push you? Olivia nodded eagerly. Daddy says you're our friend now, not just our teacher. The simple statement gave Zora pause. Is that okay with you? If I'm your friend too? Olivia considered this seriously as she swung back and forth. Yes, she decided finally. Friends are good. Mommy would want us to have more friends. That's very wise, Olivia. And Daddy smiles more when you're around, the child added matter-of-factly. He was sad all the time before, but now he smiles. The observation, delivered with a child's unfiltered honesty, touched Zora deeply. Whatever complications lay ahead, whatever professional adjustments might be necessary, the knowledge that her presence brought joy to this grieving family felt profoundly right. As she pushed Olivia on the swing, watching her face transform with delight as she soared higher, Zora allowed herself to imagine possibilities. Weekend outings that became regular traditions, quiet evenings sharing stories and building connections, a gradually deepening relationship that honored Caroline's memory while creating space for new joy. It wouldn't be simple. The twins would eventually need to understand their complex origins. Ethan would continue processing his grief in unpredictable ways. Professional boundaries would require careful navigation. But standing in the sunlit playground, listening to Olivia's laughter mingle with the sounds of children playing, Zora felt a certainty that some connections were worth the complications they brought. Saturday morning dawned clear and warm, perfect weather for the Butterfly Pavilion. Zora spent extra time on her appearance, settling on a sundress with a subtle butterfly print that she hoped would delight the twins without seeming too deliberately themed. She twisted her dreadlocks into an updo, applied light makeup, and selected delicate silver earrings shaped like leaves. As she drove to the Turners' apartment, nervousness fluttered in her stomach. This wasn't a date, exactly. The twins would be with them, and they'd established clear parameters for their interaction. Still, it marked a shift from teacher to friend, with the acknowledged potential for something more. Ethan opened the door at her knock, looking relaxed in khaki shorts and a light blue button-down with the sleeves rolled up. His smile was warm, without the strain that had characterized their early interactions. "You look beautiful," he said simply. "The twins are almost ready. They've been up since dawn, too excited to sleep." As if on cue, Oliver came racing from his bedroom wearing a dinosaur t-shirt and cargo shorts. "Miss Zora, we're going to see butterflies, and there's a garden with carnivorous plants too." "Carnivorous plants? That sounds exciting," Zora laughed, charmed by his enthusiasm. "They eat bugs," he explained seriously. "Daddy showed me pictures. They have special leaves that close like traps." Olivia appeared more sedately, wearing a purple dress with her hair in neat twists, similar to the style she'd worn to the puppet show. "You have butterflies on your dress," she observed, her voice tinged with approval. "I thought you might like that," Zora smiled. "Are you ready for our adventure?" Both twins nodded eagerly. They chattered throughout the drive to the botanical gardens, pointing out interesting sights along the way and speculating about which butterflies they might see. Zora noticed that Ethan seemed content to let them lead the conversation, occasionally adding information but mostly observing with quiet pleasure. The botanical gardens sprawled across several acres at the edge of the city, featuring themed sections ranging from desert landscapes to tropical rainforests. The butterfly pavilion stood at its center, a large glass structure filled with lush vegetation and hundreds of free-flying butterflies from around the world. "Remember the rules," Ethan reminded the twins as they approached the entrance. "No touching the butterflies, no running, and stay where we can see you. And if a butterfly lands on you, stand very still until it flies away," Oliver added, clearly repeating instructions he'd heard before. Inside the pavilion, the air was warm and humid, filled with the sweet scent of nectar-producing flowers. Butterflies of every color fluttered around them, iridescent blue morphos, orange monarchs, black and yellow swallowtails, and dozens of species Zora couldn't identify. Olivia's eyes widened with wonder. "They're everywhere," she whispered, watching a bright pink butterfly drift past her face. "They're so pretty," Oliver agreed, his usual boisterous energy temporarily subdued by awe. A staff member approached, offering the twins small cups of sugar water. "If you hold these very still, the butterflies might come to drink," she explained. The children accepted the cups with solemn responsibility, finding a bench where they could sit quietly and wait for visitors. Zora and Ethan stood nearby, watching as the twins' patience was rewarded by several curious butterflies that perched on the cup's edges to drink. "Look at their faces," Ethan murmured to Zora. "I haven't seen them this captivated since before Caroline died." Zora nodded, understanding the significance of the moment. "They're healing, finding joy again." "Thanks to you, in large part," he said, his hand briefly touching hers. "You've shown them it's okay to embrace beauty and wonder even while carrying grief." The simple contact sent warmth spreading through Zora's arm, but she kept her focus on the children. "They're teaching me too," she admitted, "about resilience and how the heart makes room for new connections even after loss." A magnificent blue morpho butterfly landed on Olivia's cup, its wings slowly opening and closing to reveal their iridescent azure color. The little girl sat perfectly still, her face a picture of transcendent joy. "Daddy," she whispered, not taking her eyes off the butterfly, "do you think Mommy can see this?" The question held no sadness, only curiosity. Ethan moved closer, crouching beside her. "I think she can, sweet pea. And I think she's very happy that you're enjoying the butterflies." Olivia nodded, satisfied with this answer. "I'm going to draw this one in my butterfly book when we get home." After spending nearly an hour in the pavilion, they moved on to explore other areas of the botanical gardens. Oliver was particularly fascinated by the carnivorous plant collection, listening intently as a guide explained how Venus flytraps and pitcher plants captured insects. "It's like they're smart," he marveled, "but they don't have brains." "Plants have different ways of sensing their environment," Zora explained, drawing on her college biology classes. "They can't think like we do, but they can respond to what's happening around them." "Like how people are different too," Oliver observed unexpectedly. "Some people think out loud like me, and some people think quietly like Olivia." His insight surprised both adults. "That's very perceptive, Oliver," Zora said, exchanging a glance with Ethan. "Everyone processes the world in their own way." By lunchtime, they found a cafe with outdoor seating overlooking a koi pond. The twins were hungry after their morning explorations, devouring sandwiches while maintaining a steady stream of observations about everything they'd seen. "This has been perfect," Ethan said to Zora while the children were distracted by the colorful fish swimming near their table. "Thank you for joining us." "I've enjoyed every minute," she replied honestly. "They're incredible children." "They've taken to you completely," he said, watching as Olivia carefully broke off pieces of her bread crust to drop into the pond. "I haven't seen them this comfortable with anyone since Caroline." The mention of his late wife came naturally, without the shadow of pain that had accompanied her name in earlier conversations. Zora recognized this as progress, the ability to reference Caroline as a beloved part of their past without being overwhelmed by grief. "I've been thinking about what you shared," Zora said carefully, "about their biological origins." Ethan nodded, his expression turning more serious. "It's a complicated history to navigate, especially as they get older." "Have you stayed in contact with Janelle at all?" Zora asked, keeping her voice low so the twins wouldn't overhear. "Minimal contact," Ethan replied. "Annual updates through the fertility clinic's legal department. We send photos and basic information about their development. She sends medical updates if anything in her history changes that might affect them." "Do you think she'll want a relationship with them someday?" Ethan sighed thoughtfully. "I don't know. When the mix-up was discovered, she was focused on fighting cancer. The idea of suddenly being a mother to twins wasn't something she could contemplate. By the time she recovered, Caroline and I had been raising them for over a year. The legal agreements we all signed give her the option to request contact when they're older, but no obligation." "And how do you feel about that possibility?" "Honestly, I want whatever is best for Oliver and Olivia. They deserve to know their complete history when they're old enough to understand it. If Janelle wants to be part of their lives someday, I'll support that connection as long as it's healthy for them." His answer reflected the same thoughtful consideration for his children's well-being that had drawn Zora to him from the beginning. "You're a remarkable father," she said softly. "I'm trying," he replied with a self-deprecating smile. "Some days are better than others." After lunch, they visited the children's garden, where the twins participated in a planting activity, each decorating a small pot and planting marigold seeds to take home. "We have to water them every day," Oliver explained to Zora, carefully carrying his pot as they walked back to the car. "And put them in the sun. And talk to them," Olivia added. "Plants like when you talk to them. It helps them grow." "That sounds like excellent plant care," Zora agreed. "Maybe you could start a garden on your balcony like you were talking about for the butterflies." The suggestion sparked an animated discussion between the twins about what they could grow in their limited outdoor space. As they chatted, Ethan's hand brushed against Zora's, then deliberately took hold of it. The gesture was tentative, giving her plenty of opportunity to pull away if she wished. Instead, she interlaced her fingers with his, the simple connection feeling surprisingly right. The twins, absorbed in their gardening plans, didn't notice this new development between the adults. By late afternoon, both children were showing signs of fatigue. Oliver's enthusiastic commentary had slowed to occasional observations, and Olivia was leaning against Zora's leg as they waited to exit the gardens. "I think we've hit the limit," Ethan chuckled, lifting a suddenly boneless Oliver into his arms. "Two tired explorers ready for home." "But I'm not tired," Oliver protested, even as he rested his head on his father's shoulder. "Me neither," Olivia insisted, though she raised her arms to Zora in a clear request to be carried. Zora lifted her without hesitation, settling the little girl on her hip. "Even butterfly experts need rest sometimes," she said gently. Walking to the car with Olivia in her arms and Ethan beside her carrying Oliver, Zora was struck by how natural it felt, like a family returning from an outing together. The thought both thrilled and frightened her. Was she ready for this level of involvement? Were the twins ready to accept her in a role beyond teacher and friend? Both children fell asleep during the drive home, exhausted from their day of exploration and excitement. When they arrived at the apartment, Ethan carried Oliver inside while Zora gently lifted the still sleeping Olivia. "I can put her down in her room," Zora whispered, following Ethan down the hallway. In Olivia's purple bedroom, Zora carefully removed the child's shoes and covered her with a light blanket. As she turned to leave, Olivia stirred slightly. "Miss Zora?" she murmured, her eyes barely opening. "Yes, butterfly girl?" Today was the best day since Mommy went to heaven. The simple statement pierced Zora's heart. "I'm so glad you enjoyed it, sweetheart. Get some rest now. Will you come back tomorrow?" The question highlighted the complexity of their evolving relationship. "Not tomorrow," Zora said gently. "But I'll see you at school on Monday, and maybe we can have another special day together soon." This seemed to satisfy Olivia, who drifted back to sleep clutching her butterfly journal. Zora quietly left the room, finding Ethan waiting in the hallway. "Both out like lights," he said with a soft smile. "Would you like some tea or coffee before you go? I'd love to talk without little ears listening." In the kitchen, as Ethan prepared tea, Zora found herself reflecting on the day, the twins' wonder at the butterflies, Olivia's declaration that it had been the best day since Mommy went to heaven, the natural ease that had developed between all of them. "I can practically hear you thinking," Ethan said, placing a steaming mug in front of her. "Just processing," Zora admitted. "Today felt so natural, but I'm aware we're navigating complex territory." Ethan nodded, taking the seat across from her. "I've been thinking about that too, about what's fair to ask of you, what's best for the twins, how to honor Caroline's memory while still moving forward." "And what conclusions have you reached?" He cupped his mug between his hands, gathering his thoughts. "That healing isn't linear, that the twins need stability and honesty, that I'm not looking to replace Caroline, that wouldn't be possible or right, but that my heart has room for new love, even while carrying grief." The word love hung between them, perhaps premature but honest in its acknowledgement of possibility. "I believe that too," Zora said softly, "about hearts making room. When my father died, I thought I'd never feel whole again. But gradually, the grief made space for joy to exist alongside it, not replacing the loss but transforming it into something I could carry without being crushed by it." "That's where I am now," Ethan agreed. "Caroline will always be part of our family story, part of who I am and who the twins are. But that doesn't mean our story is finished. There are new chapters waiting to be written." He reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "I don't know exactly what this is between us yet, Zora, but I'd like to find out if you're willing to be patient with the process." The honesty of his statement, the acknowledgement of uncertainty alongside clear interest, resonated with Zora's own feelings. "I'd like that too," she said, squeezing his hand. "One day at a time, with the twins' well-being as our priority." "Agreed," he smiled. "Speaking of which, I should talk to Ms. Diane on Monday about transitioning them to Tasha's group. If we're going to explore this connection, I want to do it right." The decision felt significant, a concrete step acknowledging the potential seriousness of their relationship. "Are you sure?" Zora asked. "They've just gotten comfortable with me as their teacher." "They adore you," Ethan said simply. "That won't change if you're not their official teacher anymore. And this way, we can develop our relationship without professional complications." As Zora prepared to leave, standing at the door with Ethan, she felt the weight of possibility between them. "Thank you for today," she said, "for sharing the twins with me and for trusting me with your family's story." "Thank you for being someone worth sharing it with," he replied, his eyes warm with affection. The moment called for more than words. Slowly, giving him plenty of time to step back if he wished, Zora leaned forward and placed a gentle kiss on his cheek. "Good night, Ethan," she said softly. His hand came up to touch the spot where her lips had been, a smile spreading across his face. "Good night, Zora. See you Monday." Driving home through the gathering dusk, Zora felt a sense of peace settling over her. The day had confirmed what her heart already knew, that this connection with Ethan and the twins was worth pursuing, despite its complexities. Whatever challenges lay ahead, professional adjustments, the twins' ongoing grief process, the eventual need to explain their biological origins, they would navigate them together, one day at a time. At a stoplight, Zora's phone chimed with a text message. It was from Ethan, containing a photo he must have taken without her noticing. Zora kneeling between the twins in the butterfly pavilion, all three of them looking up in wonder as butterflies floated above them. The caption read simply, "New Beginnings." Smiling, Zora saved the image before continuing home. New beginnings indeed, unexpected and complex, but beautiful in their promise of connection, healing, and joy yet to come. If you enjoyed today's video, I'm sure you'll love the next one. Don't waste time. Just click on the screen.